The attic smelled of dust and forgotten things. It wasn't a place I went often, but after 25 years in the same house, clutter had a way of creeping in. Olivia had been on me about clearing it out, claiming we needed to start downsizing for retirement. I agreed, though the thought of leaving the home we raised our kids in filled me with unease. I was shifting boxes, clearing out old tax records and faded Christmas decorations when I found it, an old leather-bound journal buried under a pile of worn-out sweaters. I didn't recognize it at first. The cover was cracked with age, the pages yellowed. But when I opened it, Olivia's handwriting stared back at me, neat and deliberate. It was a diary. I should have stopped right there. I should have respected her privacy, closed it, and tucked it back where I found it. But something about it, about the way it was hidden, called to me. Flipping through the first few pages, I was transported back to the early years of our marriage. She wrote about our first apartment, our weekend trips to the lake, the way I used to leave her little notes in the morning before work. A lump formed in my throat as I read her words, remembering a time when we were deeply, hopelessly in love. Then I saw it. A passage dated June 1999, just a few years into our marriage. Jay, I miss you so much. Mark is clueless as always. I know I should feel guilty, but I don't. Not really. Once the money is right, I'll finally leave him, and we can be together. Just a little longer. I read the words again, my pulse thundering in my ears. My hands trembled as I turned the pages, scanning for more. And there it was, over and over again, letter after letter, confession after confession, all written to someone named Jay. She never planned to stay with me. My chest tightened. A sick, twisting feeling settled in my gut. Olivia, my wife of 25 years, had been waiting for the right time to leave me. But she never did. Why? What changed? I closed the journal, my breath coming in short, uneven bursts. The woman I thought I knew, the woman I had loved for half my life, had been lying to me since the beginning. I needed air. I stumbled down the attic stairs, the journal clutched in my hands like some cursed artifact. Outside, the autumn air was crisp, but it did nothing to cool the fire burning inside me. I sat on the porch steps, staring at the ground, the weight of betrayal pressing down on me. I had to be rational. Maybe this was old. Maybe Jay was just some stupid infatuation, something from her past. I wanted to believe that. God, I wanted to believe that. But I knew better. The way Olivia had changed over the years, the secret phone calls, the extra time spent shopping, the distance that had grown between us like an unseen chasm. I had ignored it all, chalked it up to aging, to routine. What if I had been blind this entire time? The thought clawed at my insides. I flipped to the last few entries, searching for something, anything that would tell me it had ended. The handwriting remained the same, but the dates grew closer and closer to the present. Then I saw it. Jay, I know you're getting impatient. I am too. But it's not as simple as packing a bag. Mark still has control over our accounts, and I need more time to move things without him noticing. Just be patient. Once I have what I need, we'll be free. The date? 2 months ago. My entire world tilted. She wasn't just remembering an old affair. She was still in it. Olivia had been funneling our savings, our retirement, into her escape plan. I felt sick. I closed the journal, pressing my fingers against my temples. My heart pounded so hard it felt like it might burst. For 25 years, I had trusted her. I had built a life with her. And now, it was all crumbling. I had to confront her. But not yet. Not until I knew everything. I needed proof. I needed answers. And most of all, I needed to know exactly who Jay was. I didn't sleep that night. The journal sat on my nightstand like a ticking bomb, my mind racing with possibilities. Who the hell was Jay? How long had this been going on? And what the hell had I been doing all these years while my wife schemed behind my back? I stared at the ceiling, listening to Olivia's slow, steady breathing beside me, feeling the weight of a betrayal I couldn't yet fully comprehend. By morning, my anger had sharpened into something colder, something focused. I wasn't going to confront her yet. No, I needed proof. I needed to be sure of what I was dealing with. If Olivia had been planning to leave me for years, then she had learned to cover her tracks well. I started small. That morning, while she showered, I checked her purse. Nothing suspicious, just the usual clutter of receipts, lipsticks, and an extra pair of sunglasses. Then I checked the banking app on my phone. Olivia and I shared most of our accounts, but she had insisted on keeping one of her own. For emergencies. I had never questioned it. It took me less than a minute to pull up the statement. A pattern jumped out at me immediately. Withdrawals, small at first, but steadily increasing, all funneled into an account I didn't recognize. Thousands of dollars, little by little, disappearing into thin air. I gritted my teeth, my fingers gripping the phone so tight I thought it might crack. She'd been bleeding me dry for years. I forced myself to act normal. Over breakfast, Olivia was her usual self, smiling as she sipped her coffee, scrolling through her phone like she didn't have a goddamn care in the world. I studied her, trying to see past the woman I thought I knew. Was she pretending? Or was I just a complete idiot? She glanced up and caught me staring. What? She asked, raising an eyebrow. Nothing, I said, forcing a smile. Just thinking about that attic. Maybe we should clear it out this weekend, finally get rid of all that junk. She hesitated, just for a second. A flicker of something crossed her face. Panic? Then it was gone. Yeah, maybe, she said casually, taking another sip of coffee. I needed more. That afternoon, when she left for one of her shopping trips, I checked her laptop. I knew she had passwords for everything, but she wasn't as tech-savvy as she liked to think. It only took a few guesses to get into her email. And there he was. Jay. My stomach turned as I scrolled through email after email. She had a separate account just for him, buried under junk promotions and old spam. But the messages were there, coded, careful, but unmistakable. Miss you today? I can't wait until we don't have to sneak around anymore. He's starting to get suspicious. We have to be careful. I clenched my jaw. Suspicious? No, I had been blind. The difference was, now I was suspicious. And now I had proof. Then I found something worse. A thread from just a week ago. I know it's taking longer than we planned, but I can't just walk away. He'd fight me on the money, and I'm not starting over at this point in my life. Then maybe he won't be around to fight you at all. I stopped breathing. My hands shook as I read it again, slower this time. It wasn't direct, it wasn't explicit, but the meaning was clear. They weren't just planning to take the money. They were planning to get rid of me. A slow, cold dread settled over me. The affair had been one thing. The betrayal, the money, even that I could have handled in time. But this? This was something else. Olivia wasn't just cheating. She was waiting for the right time to get me out of the way. I needed to know who Jay was. I printed out the emails and tucked them into my briefcase. Then I grabbed my keys and left, my heart hammering in my chest. It was time to meet the man who had been sleeping with my wife. And it was time to find out if he was planning to kill me. I drove with my hands clenched tight on the wheel, my mind racing with the possibilities. My wife was cheating on me, that much was clear. She had been for years. But now, it wasn't just about her affair. It wasn't just about her stealing our money. No, this was about my life. My actual life. I had printed out the emails, stuffed them into my briefcase, and left the house before Olivia could ask where I was going. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. I wasn't the kind of man who got involved in drama. I wasn't the kind of man who let emotions get the best of him. But this? This wasn't just an affair. This was a goddamn conspiracy. Jay. The name taunted me like a whisper in the dark. Olivia had been careful never to say his full name in her emails, but I was done playing detective. I had a plan. I was going to call in a favor. I pulled up to a bar on the outskirts of town, the kind of place where people drank to forget. Inside, the lighting was dim, and the air was thick with cigarette smoke. I spotted him immediately, Charlie Wells, a guy I knew from way back. He was a private investigator now, the kind of guy who found the truth whether you wanted it or not. Charlie looked up from his whiskey, raising an eyebrow when he saw me. "Mark," he said, setting his glass down. "Didn't expect to see you here." I slid into the booth across from him and placed the folder on the table. "I need a name," I said. "And I need it now." Charlie frowned, flipping open the folder. He skimmed the emails, his lips pressing into a thin line as he read the last one. When he looked up, his expression had changed. "Jesus," he muttered. "Your wife's not just screwing around. She's planning something. Tell me something I don't know." He sighed and reached for his laptop, tapping away at the keyboard. "If she's been siphoning money, she's been sending it somewhere. If Jay is a real person, there's gotta be a trail." I watched as Charlie worked, my pulse hammering in my ears. I wanted to scream, to demand answers now, but I knew better than to rush him. After a few minutes, he let out a low whistle. Well, well, well," he said, tilting the laptop toward me. "Meet Jason Carter." I stared at the screen. The photo showed a man in his late 40s, sharp suit, dark hair, smug expression. He looked familiar, but I couldn't place him. "Who is he?" Charlie scrolled through the information. "He's a financial consultant. Owns a couple of businesses, nothing huge. But look at this." He tapped the screen. "He has multiple offshore accounts. And guess whose name shows up on a few of them?" My stomach twisted. "Olivia." Bingo. I ran a hand through my hair, exhaling sharply. She wasn't just cheating on me. She was moving our money into this bastard's accounts. Charlie leaned forward. "Mark, this guy's not just some side fling. He's a goddamn scam artist. He's been conning rich women for years. They fall for him, he gets them to drain their accounts, and then, poof, he disappears." The room spun around me. "And Olivia?" Charlie's expression darkened. "If she's dumb enough to believe he's her future, she might already be in too deep. And if they're talking about you not being around..." He let the sentence hang, but I knew what he meant. I swallowed hard. I had spent 25 years building a life with Olivia. We raised kids together. We planned our future. And all along, she had been waiting for the perfect moment to erase me. I gritted my teeth. "I need to know how far this goes." Charlie nodded. "I'll keep digging. But Mark, watch your back. If she thinks you're onto her, things could get ugly." I left the bar feeling like I had stepped into a nightmare. Olivia wasn't just planning to leave me. She was planning to take everything. And now, I had to figure out just how far she was willing to go to make that happen. I gripped the wheel as I drove back home, a new resolve settling over me. I wasn't going to be blindsided again. Olivia had spent years making me the fool, playing her game behind my back. But now it was my turn. By the time I pulled into the driveway, the house felt different. The place where I had spent decades building a life, where I had watched my kids grow up, where Olivia and I had once laughed over cheap wine and late-night movies, now it felt like a crime scene. And the criminal was inside. I sat in the car for a few minutes, gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. I needed to be careful. If Olivia and Jason Carter were planning something, I couldn't tip my hand just yet. I needed to play the part of the oblivious husband for a little longer. Taking a deep breath, I got out of the car and walked inside. Olivia was in the kitchen, pouring herself a glass of wine. She looked up when she saw me, flashing that same practiced smile she had probably been using on me for years. "Hey, you were gone a while. Everything okay?" Her voice was smooth, casual, like she wasn't plotting my death. I forced a smile. "Yeah, just ran some errands." I watched her closely as she took a sip of her wine, her eyes scanning me like she was trying to figure out if I was acting differently. I had to be better than her. I had to be smarter. "By the way," I said, setting my keys down on the counter, "I was thinking we should go on a trip. Just the two of us." Get away from everything. She hesitated for half a second. Most people wouldn't have noticed it. But I did. A trip? She repeated. Yeah. Somewhere warm. I was looking at resorts earlier. She took another sip of wine, nodding like she was considering it. That sounds nice. But work's been crazy lately. Maybe in a few months? Bullshit. Olivia didn't have a real job anymore, just a few consulting gigs here and there. She made her own schedule. She could have left whenever she wanted. I smiled like an idiot and nodded. Yeah, of course. We'll figure it out. And just like that I knew. She wasn't going to be with me in a few months. She was waiting for the right time. And I had a feeling that time was coming soon. I spent the next few days gathering as much information as I could. I installed a tracking app on Olivia's phone while she was in the shower, giving me access to her calls, messages, and location. I wasn't proud of it. But she had already broken every vow we had ever made. I didn't owe her anything. Then I started watching her. The way she left the house at odd hours. The way she spent more time on her phone, texting someone she never mentioned. The way she avoided looking me in the eye when we talked about the future. I waited until she left one afternoon, saying she was going to meet a friend for coffee. Her phone tracker told me otherwise. She had driven straight to a hotel across town. I followed her. Parking down the street, I watched as she walked into the lobby like she had done it 100 times before. She didn't even hesitate. A few minutes later he arrived. Jason Carter. Tall. Confident. The kind of guy who probably thought he was smarter than everyone else in the room. He kissed her right there in the lobby, like he had no reason to hide. Like I was already out of the picture. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my fingers ached. Every instinct told me to storm in there, to grab him by the throat, to make Olivia watch as I broke her real husband in half. But I didn't. I took pictures instead. I snapped photo after photo, of them kissing, of them holding hands, of them getting into the elevator together. Evidence. Proof. The kind of thing that would burn Olivia to the ground in divorce court. And then I left. Because now? I had everything I needed. That night I waited. I acted normal. I had dinner with Olivia, listened to her complain about traffic, watched her pretend that everything was fine. And then, after she fell asleep, I checked her messages. Jason, it's almost time. Olivia, I know. I just need to get him to sign off on the insurance paperwork. Jason, make sure he does. No mistakes. Olivia, he trusts me. He won't suspect a thing. I nearly threw up. It was real. It was actually happening. They weren't just stealing from me. They weren't just betraying me. They were planning to kill me. And Olivia, the woman I had built a life with, was leading the charge. I put her phone back on the nightstand and stared at her as she slept peacefully beside me. My wife. My murderer. A few days ago, I would have broken down. A few days ago, I would have been shattered. But now, I was something else entirely. I wasn't going to be her victim. I wasn't going to let them win. If Olivia and Jason wanted a war, they had just gotten one. I didn't sleep that night. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing through every possibility, every move I needed to make. Olivia slept beside me, peaceful, oblivious to the fact that I knew everything. It sickened me how easily she could rest while planning my death. I had married a monster, and I had never even seen it. But now I saw her clearly. By morning I had a plan. If Olivia and Jason thought I was just going to roll over and die, they had another thing coming. I wasn't going to the police, not yet. No, I needed more. If I confronted Olivia now, she would twist things, turn on the tears, play the victim. She had spent years perfecting the art of deception. I had to outplay her. At breakfast I watched her carefully. She smiled, sipping her coffee like nothing was wrong. You okay? She asked, feigning concern. You look tired. I forced a chuckle, shaking my head. Just didn't sleep well. Stress at work, you know how it is. She nodded sympathetically, pretending to care. You should take some time off. Relax. She was already planting the seed. She needed me weak, off guard. Maybe even out of town. That afternoon, I called Charlie. I need everything you can find on Jason Carter. Everything. Who he is, what he's done, where he's been. I don't care how much it costs. Charlie didn't ask questions. Give me a few hours. While I waited, I played the part of the clueless husband. I acted normal. I kissed Olivia goodbye when she left for her errands. I smiled. I told her I loved her. Every word tasted like poison, but I forced it out. Then I went to my lawyer. File for divorce. I told him, dropping the pictures of Olivia and Jason on his desk. Make it airtight. I want everything. My lawyer, a sharp man named David, raised an eyebrow. You sure about this? You know she's going to fight it. Let her, I said. And while you're at it, pull up our life insurance policies. I have a feeling my wife's been making changes. He didn't ask questions. By the time I left his office, the wheels were already in motion. A few hours later, Charlie called back. Mark, you're gonna want to hear this. Jason Carter was exactly what I feared. He had done this before. 3 times. Always the same pattern. He found wealthy married women, seduced them, convinced them to funnel money into his accounts. And then? Their husbands had unfortunate accidents. A boating mishap, a house fire, a car crash. All ruled as tragic but coincidental. And every time, Jason walked away with the money. I gripped my phone so tight my knuckles turned white. Tell me you found something I can use. Oh, I found something. Charlie's voice was grim. The last woman he did this with? She disappeared. Her family still thinks she ran away, but I found records showing Jason took out $1 million life insurance policy on her just weeks before she vanished. Same playbook, Mark. And guess what? The policy was in his name. A cold realization settled over me. Olivia's not just planning to kill me. She thinks she's running away with him. Yep, Charlie confirmed. And I'm betting she doesn't realize she's next on his list once he has your money. That's when I knew. I had to end this. Not just for me, but for Olivia too. Because as much as I hated her for what she had done, I wasn't going to let her end up buried in some shallow grave, just another of Jason Carter's victims. I needed to turn them against each other. That night, I played my final card. Over dinner, I casually mentioned, "Oh, by the way, I got a call from the bank today. Some weird activity on our accounts. They said they needed us both to come in and confirm some transactions." Olivia froze. Just for a second. Then she smiled. "Oh? I'm sure it's nothing." I shrugged. "Yeah, probably. But I scheduled an appointment for us tomorrow morning. We'll go together, figure it out." She hesitated. I saw the wheels turning in her head. She had to warn Jason. She had to come up with a reason not to go. But if she refused, it would make me suspicious. She had no choice but to say, "Sure, that sounds fine." That night, while she slept, I sent an email. "Jason, I don't think I can go through with it. He's on to me. We need to talk." Then I deleted it. An hour later, her phone buzzed. Jason had taken the bait. "What do you mean? What did he say?" "We need to stick to the plan, Olivia. You said he trusted you. Are you backing out on me?" The panic was setting in. I smiled, rolling over in bed, pretending to sleep. Because in the morning, I was going to watch them destroy each other. Morning came slow, thick with tension. I moved around the house like everything was normal, but I could feel the shift. Olivia was distracted, constantly checking her phone, barely eating her breakfast. She thought she was subtle, but I could see the cracks forming. The panic was setting in. She had read the message. She had seen Jason's response. And now? She was trapped between the two of us. I played my part. "You ready to go?" I asked, grabbing my keys. She hesitated, just for a second, then nodded. Yeah. Let's get this over with. The bank was a lie. We weren't going there. But she didn't know that. She just knew Jason was waiting for her response, probably wondering if she had turned on him. Good. I pulled out of the driveway, taking a different route. Olivia noticed immediately. Where are we going? She asked, her voice just a little too casual. I didn't answer. Instead, I pulled into a quiet parking lot, the kind of place where people didn't ask questions. A rundown gas station, long abandoned, the perfect spot to have a conversation we should have had years ago. I killed the engine, turned to her, and smiled. We need to talk, Liv. She tried to act confused, but I saw the flicker of fear in her eyes. Talk about what? I leaned back in my seat, folding my arms. Jason Carter. She went pale. I let the silence stretch. Let her sit in it. Let her squirm. Then I pulled out my phone and tapped the screen. The photos appeared, her and Jason at the hotel, the emails, the messages she thought she had hidden. I swiped through them slowly, letting her see the evidence of her betrayal. I know everything, I said quietly. The affair. The money. The plan. Her lips parted, but no words came out. She was caught. There was no way out. How long? I asked. How long have you been planning to kill me, Olivia? She flinched, and for a moment I saw the real her, the one behind the lies. But then, like the master manipulator she was, she straightened her shoulders and scowled. You're crazy, she snapped. I don't know what you think you found, but... I cut her off with a laugh. Oh, come on. You think you can gaslight me now? I tossed the phone onto her lap. Explain that. Go ahead. I'll wait. She didn't even try. Her hands clenched into fists, her breathing shallow. She knew the game was up. Then, she switched tactics. Mark, I was scared, she whispered, reaching for my hand. Jason, he pressured me. I didn't know what to do. I got in too deep, and I was trying to find a way out. I ripped my hand away. Bullshit. Tears welled in her eyes. The same fake tears she had probably used on Jason when she wanted more money. Please, Mark. You have to believe me. I stared at her. For a split second, I almost did. Because this was the woman I had loved. The mother of my kids. The woman I had spent 25 years building a life with. But then I remembered the text. The one where she agreed that I wouldn't be around much longer. And just like that, the last piece of me that still cared about her died. You're not afraid of Jason, I said, my voice cold. You love him. I leaned in, watching her breathe faster, her pulse hammering in her throat. But here's the thing, Olivia. He doesn't love you. Her brow furrowed. What are you talking about? I smirked. I had someone look into him. Guess what? You're not his first. Or his second. Or even his third. I let that sink in before continuing. He's done this before. Found a woman, convinced her to steal from her husband, made her think they had a future. And then? She disappeared. Guess who got her life insurance payout? Her hands shook. No, he wouldn't. But he would. I leaned back, letting her unravel. And when you finally get rid of me, Olivia, what do you think happens next? You think Jason's gonna run off with you and live happily ever after? I chuckled. No. He's going to take everything. And then, he's going to make you disappear. She shook her head violently. You're lying. I shrugged. Maybe. But are you willing to bet your life on it? I let her sit with that. Let her really think about it. I could see the doubt creeping in, the panic, the realization that she had played the wrong game with the wrong man. And then I went for the kill. You want to survive this, Olivia? I asked. Then you help me take Jason down. She froze. What? She whispered. You heard me, I said. Jason thinks you're loyal, right? Good. Because you're going to set him up. She stared at me, realization dawning in her eyes. You want to trap him? Damn right I do, I said. He wanted me dead. Now? I want him in prison. Her breath was shaky. And if I help you, what happens to me? I leaned in close, lowering my voice to a deadly whisper. That depends on you, Olivia. You help me, and maybe, I let you walk away from this. Silence. And then, finally, she nodded. Okay, she whispered. I'll do it. I sat back, satisfied. I had her exactly where I wanted her. Because Olivia might have betrayed me. She might have planned to kill me. But now, she was about to betray Jason too. And I was going to love watching it happen. I left Olivia sitting in the car, her hands shaking, her mind racing. I knew she was panicking. Knew she was running through every possible outcome, every escape route. But she had none. She was trapped, and she knew it. By the time we got home, she still hadn't said much. Good. I didn't need her to talk. I just needed her to do what I told her. That night I waited. I watched. Olivia paced around the house, checking her phone every 5 minutes, debating whether to call Jason. She didn't. Because she was scared, of him, of me, of the fact that her perfect little plan had just blown up in her face. It was exactly where I wanted her. I let her sit with it for a day. Let her stew. Then, when I knew she was coming apart at the seams, I made my next move. At dinner, I slid my phone across the table. Text him, I said. Olivia barely looked up. What? I leaned in, lowering my voice. Text Jason. Tell him you're ready. Tell him you want to move forward with the plan. She hesitated, her fingers twitching around her wine glass. Why? I smirked. Because we're going to catch him in the act. She swallowed hard. I could see the war happening inside her. She wanted to run to Jason, to tell him everything. But she also knew, if she did that, she was dead. Slowly, she picked up the phone. Typed the message. Olivia, I'm ready. Let's do this. A minute passed. Then another. Her phone buzzed. Jason, about time. Meet me tomorrow. You know where. I smiled, leaning back in my chair. Looks like we have a date. The next day, I followed Olivia. Not that she knew. She left the house in the early afternoon, dressed casually, nothing that would stand out. But I knew where she was going. I had already placed a tracker under her car. Jason had chosen a park on the outskirts of town, quiet, secluded, the kind of place you went when you didn't want to be seen. The kind of place you planned a murder. I parked a block away, watching as Olivia got out of the car and walked toward a bench near a cluster of trees. Jason was already there, leaning back like he owned the world. The bastard smiled when he saw her. I gritted my teeth. Not for long. I stayed back, watching. Recording. Jason leaned in close, whispering something. Olivia nodded, fidgeting with her hands. I couldn't hear them from where I was, but I didn't need to. I had planted a small recording device in her purse that morning. I checked the feed on my phone, and the words came through crystal clear. Jason, it has to look like an accident. My stomach clenched, even though I expected it. Olivia, how? Jason sighed, like he was talking to a child. We'll do it at the cabin. You said he likes to go there alone, right? You bring him up there, we stage a break-in, and boom, one dead husband, no loose ends. I exhaled slowly. Got you, you son of a bitch. Olivia, and after? Jason chuckled. Then we disappeared, baby. Just like we planned. Lies. I could hear them dripping from his mouth. I clenched my fists so hard my nails dug into my palms. Olivia had been stupid enough to fall for this man. She thought he cared about her, thought she was special. But I knew better. I had seen what happened to the last woman he did this to. And now, I had what I needed. I stepped out of the car, walking toward them. Olivia saw me first. Her eyes widened in terror. Jason turned, frowning. Too late. I kept my face calm. controlled. Well, well, I said. Quite the meeting you two are having. Jason's entire body stiffened. But then, like the smug bastard he was, he leaned back and smirked. Mark, right? Olivia's told me about you. I tilted my head. Oh, I bet she has. He spread his arms like none of this mattered. Listen, man, I don't know what you think. I cut him off by pulling my phone from my pocket and pressing play. His own voice came through the speaker. You bring him up there, we stage a break-in, and boom, one dead husband, no loose ends. His smirk vanished. For the first time, I saw real fear in his eyes. I grinned. Guess what, Jason? You're done. His gaze darted to Olivia. She was shaking. She opened her mouth, but before she could say a word, Jason lunged for me. I was ready. I stepped back just in time, dodging his attack, and slammed my fist into his gut. He doubled over, gasping. I grabbed the back of his head and drove my knee into his face. Blood sprayed, and he crumpled to the ground. I stood over him, breathing hard. Here's what's going to happen, I said. You're going to confess. To everything. You're going to tell the cops exactly what you planned. Because if you don't... I knelt down, lowering my voice. I'll make sure you disappear first. Jason groaned, clutching his broken nose. He knew he was screwed. And he knew I wasn't bluffing. At that moment, sirens blared in the distance. Right on time. The cops swarmed the park. I had already sent the recording to my lawyer, and he had forwarded it to the authorities. Jason Carter was done. As they cuffed him, he glared at Olivia. You set me up. She didn't answer. She was too busy crying. Jason fought as they dragged him away, but it was over. The evidence was airtight. He was going to prison for attempted murder conspiracy, and considering his past, he wouldn't be getting out. Olivia turned to me, her face pale. Mark! I raised a hand. Don't. Just don't. She flinched. I saw it in her eyes, the realization that I was done with her. You helped him plan my murder, Olivia, I said coldly. I don't care why. I don't care what lies you told yourself to justify it. You're dead to me. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Please. I shook my head. We're done. I walked away. By the time I got home, my lawyer had already sent over the divorce papers. I signed them without a second thought. Jason Carter was convicted within months. Olivia? She got lucky. No hard evidence tying her to the planning of my murder, but she lost everything in the divorce. No money. No house. No future. She tried calling. I never answered. In the end, Olivia had spent years planning to take me down. And yet, I was the one who walked away free. I wasn't a victim. I was a survivor. And as I looked out over my new life, I knew one thing for sure. I would never be played again. 6 months had passed. 6 months since I watched Jason Carter get dragged away in cuffs, since I walked out on Olivia for good. 6 months since I finally took control of my own goddamn life. The divorce was finalized in record time. Olivia tried to fight it at first, but she had no leverage. Her name wasn't on most of our assets. I had made sure of that over the years. She got nothing. No house. No savings. No sympathy. She had spent years planning my downfall, and in the end, she was the one left with nothing but regret. I had blocked her number the day the papers were signed, but every few weeks, I'd get an email from her. At first, they were angry. You ruined my life, Mark. I hope you're happy. Then they turned desperate. I made a mistake. I wasn't thinking straight. Please, can we just talk? I never responded. Olivia had already said everything I needed to hear when she chose to plot my death. She was nothing to me now. Just another mistake I had learned from. As for Jason? He was rotting in a maximum security prison, serving a 25-year sentence for conspiracy to commit murder and multiple counts of fraud. Turns out, once the FBI dug into his past, they found a lot more skeletons in his closet. A few of his previous victims' families came forward, giving them even more to pin on him. He was never getting out. That should have been the end of it. But it wasn't. Because Olivia wasn't done trying to save herself. One evening, as I was finishing up a workout, I heard a knock at my door. I wasn't expecting anyone. My life had been quiet since the divorce, and I liked it that way. I checked the security camera feed on my phone. It was Olivia. I almost didn't answer. Almost let her stand out there in the cold like she deserved. But something told me this was it. The final chapter. The last time I would ever have to see her. I opened the door and leaned against the frame, arms crossed. "What the hell do you want?" She looked terrible. Hair unkempt, eyes sunken, clothes wrinkled like she had slept in them. Nothing like the woman who used to spend hours perfecting herself in the mirror. She hesitated. "I have nowhere else to go." I laughed. Actually laughed in her face. "Not my problem." "Mark, please," she whispered, stepping closer. "You don't understand. I was manipulated. Jason, he made me do it." I narrowed my eyes. "Really?" "Because I remember reading those texts, Olivia. The ones where you were planning everything. The ones where you were making sure I signed the life insurance paperwork." She flinched. I was scared. "Bullshit." I shook my head. "You weren't scared. You were greedy. You thought you had a better option. Thought you could upgrade. But Jason played you just like you played me. And now? You have nothing." Tears welled in her eyes. "Mark, I loved you. I felt nothing. Not even anger anymore. Just exhaustion. No, you used me. And now you have to live with the consequences." She swallowed hard. "I need help." I sighed, rubbing my temples. "Here's what's gonna happen, Olivia. You're going to turn around, walk back to your car, and drive away. You're going to figure out your own mess, just like I had to clean up the one you made for me. And if you ever come near me again, I will get a restraining order so fast your head will spin." She opened her mouth to argue, but I slammed the door in her face. I stood there for a moment, waiting. She didn't knock again. A minute later, I heard her car start, and just like that, she was gone. For good. I took a deep breath, rolling the tension out of my shoulders. This was it. The final loose end tied up. I had won. I wasn't just some naive husband anymore. I wasn't the fool she had taken me for. I had come out on top. And I would never, ever let anyone play me again. A week later, I packed a bag, booked a flight, and left town for good. A fresh start. A new life. And this time? I was in control.